Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to All Price Picks. Today we're looking at the NFL. We have another good game for you guys. Pittsburgh Steelers playing against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia on December 15th, 2024. Currently, the Steelers are 10-3, which is first place in the AFC North, and the Eagles are 11-2, which is first place in the NFC East. So this is a potential Super Bowl matchup, and I think it'll be a good game overall. I think it's going to be a very good defensive game, probably low scoring as well. And I do looking towards the Eagles winning this game, being that they are at home and have a better defense, in my opinion, than the Steelers. But Mike Tomlin as an underdog is always a good coach, so this game will be competitive, in my opinion. But in this video, I have a few parlays for you guys. As always, I'll break down the lines, give you my thoughts, and hopefully if you tap in, we can all win. So these two parlays are focused on Russell Wilson and Devonta Smith. I think Russell Wilson, he's had a good season for the Steelers, but I do think he is due for a bad game in this one, which is why I titled it Dangerous, because uh, I don't think he'll perform that well in this game. The Eagles have a top five overall passing defense, and they play very well at home. Very disciplined defense, and I think Russell will struggle to find open receivers, especially without having George Pickens, who's their number one receiver in this game because of a hamstring injury. So I have Russell Wilson to throw at least one interception in this game. He's thrown one interception in 3 out of his last 5 games, and this is probably the best defense that he will be facing out of all the teams that he faced. Uh, he threw an interception against Washington, Baltimore, and Cincinnati, all of which do not really have good passing defenses statistically. And I think that with the Eagles being at home, they likely will force Russell Wilson to throw into bad spots and um, will likely throw an interception in this game. I also like Devonta Smith to have 25 and 50 receiving yards. So in his last 2 games, Devonta Smith has had over 4 receptions, and he's had over 4 receptions in 4 out of his last 5 games as well, going over 50 yards in just 2 of those games. And I do think that in this game there will be a lot of defensive coverage towards um, AJ Brown, and I think that'll just leave Devonta Smith one on one against the number 2 cornerback for the Steelers, who probably won't be able to guard him as well as he will be able to play, in my opinion. So I do like him for over 25 receiving yards and over 50 receiving yards. And I just like his big play potential, especially down the field. He's had at least one 20-yard reception in 4 out of his last 5 games. And that also includes having a 45-yard reception versus Cincinnati and a 46-yard reception versus Jacksonville. So I do think if he gets the targets down the field, he should be able to come down with one of them and has a good chance of going over 25 and 50 receiving yards in this game. But I split my unit size to half a unit on each of these parlays. So at plus 135 and plus 275, if you invest 1 unit on either parlay, you have a return of 135% or 275%, which is a pretty good return on investment as long as parlay hits. And per usual, just have bankroll consciousness and understanding of your finances when deciding to place these bets if you decide to place them. Now looking at the running backs for each team, I do like Saquon Barkley's involvement with the Eagles, and I think that while his rushing yards may be difficult to come by, he could have a good receiving game in this one. And I also like Jalen Warren to have a good receiving game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Saquon has gone over 75 rushing and receiving yards total in 5 straight games, and he said just had a lot more involvement with the offense, going over 20 rushing carries in 4 straight games, and uh, his touches per game are at a at over 20 per game in his last 5 games as well. So I think as long as he gets the touches, whether it comes from running the ball or through the air as a reception, he should be able to go over 75 yards once again at home. I also like Jalen Warren to have over 21 receiving yards. So Warren has gone over 21 receiving yards in 4 out of his last 5 games, and in the one game that he didn't go over, he had 19 receiving yards. And the Eagles, while they do have a good defense overall, especially when it comes to defending the run, they are vulnerable to allowing receiving yards to running backs as well as receptions. And Jalen Warren is the receiving back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do think that the Eagles will be leading in this game, which will require the Steelers to pass the ball more often. And I think that Jalen Warren can get easy checkdowns and turn those checkdowns into yards. He's gone over 2 receptions in 7 straight games, and I think as long as he gets the targets, he'll be able to go over 21 receiving yards. And at plus 105, this is essentially a plus money parlay. Um, if you invest 1 unit on this parlay like I did, you have a 105% return on your investment, which is a great return. And per usual, just have bankroll consciousness and understanding of your finances when deciding to place these bets. So these are the next 2 parlays that I have. essentially, I just took Jalen Warren to have over 21 receiving yards, which I mentioned before, and gave reasons why I like that. But also for Saquon Barkley or Jalen Hurts to score a touchdown. Uh, I think that while this will be a low scoring game, both teams will rely on the run, and that'll lead up to opportunities for either Saquon or Jalen Hurts to score a touchdown. I like Jalen Hurts more if it's like within the 2 yard line because of the touch push, and he honestly takes a lot of touchdowns away from Saquon Barkley. But Saquon Barkley has had a great season. He's an MVP candidate and should be able to get into the end zone in this one as well. So at plus 188 and plus 250, I split my unit size in half so that I could have half a unit on each, and hopefully both of them are able to score a touchdown in this game. But if only one of them does, it's still a positive return on investment. And at plus 188, if you invest one unit on that parlay, you have a 188% return on your investment. And at plus 250, if you invest one unit on that parlay, you have a 250% return on investment. And as always, just have bankroll consciousness and understanding of your finances when deciding to place these bets. So now looking at AJ Brown, I think that one, he's just great against man coverage, and the Steelers run a lot of man coverage. I think he's the number one receiver in terms of yards versus man coverage. So whenever they're playing man to man, Jalen Hurts does target AJ Brown a lot. But I took his receptions just because I think that he'll have a lot more targets in this game. He did talk about how the passing offense does need to improve in the media, and they kind of made a big deal about that. I think that'll lead to a lot more targets, especially earlier on, and I don't really see AJ Brown as the type of person that would just drop those targets. I like his receiving numbers, like having more than 5.5 receptions rather than total yards, just because I think that the Steelers have a pretty good defense overall. And AJ Brown hasn't been getting receptions down the field as often as he did earlier on in the season. In his last 5 games, his longest reception was 44 yards, but that was on November 10th against Dallas. And then since then, he's had a long of 25, 28, 15, and 15. So I do think that while he gets the targets, he doesn't really get the targets down the field. And I like Devontae Smith more for yards rather than AJ Brown. But at plus 145, if you invest one unit on this parlay, you have a 145% return on your investment. Per usual, just have bankroll consciousness and understanding of your finances when deciding to place these bets. Well, also, I think the Eagles will win the game, which is why I added it to the parlay. And this is the long shot parlay, last parlay of this video at plus 1700. I put half a unit on this one. So as I mentioned, I do think it'll be a lower scoring game, which is why I took the total points for the Steelers to go under 25 and under 29 for the Eagles, as well as for the Eagles to win in the first half and the game. I do think that the role players for the Steelers will have good games overall because of George Pickens not being in the game, which is why I took Freiermuth and Van Jefferson to have over 32 yards and 21 yards respectively. But also took Grant Calcaterra to have over 21 receiving yards. Dallas Goedert is their number one tight end, and he's out of this game due to a knee injury. And the Steelers on the season are kind of middle of the pack in terms of defending against the tight end position. So I do think that Calcaterra could have one reception for 21 yards and catch this play, but also I think that he'll have just more targets being on the field more often. And in his last game versus Carolina, he had 3 receptions for 16 yards. And I do think that his increased involvement with the offense will lead to him having a higher potential for receiving yards. So at plus 1700, if you invest one unit on this parlay, it's a 1,700% return on investment, which is a great return on investment, especially if the parlay wins. I'm excited to watch this game, even though it'll be more defensive. I probably will switch in between this game and the Bills and Lions game, but both games should be good games, and I'm excited to see if this parlay hits. So those are parlays I have for you guys. Be sure to like, comment, and share on this video, as well as subscribe to my channel. And be sure to check out more NFL and NBA videos coming out later this week. Until next time, peace.